Hello, everyone. Welcome to Laser Focus. This is the deep dive pop culture podcast from Nerdist. I'm Kyle Anderson. Thank you for listening. Folks, this week we are delving back into something almost as old as me, which is old cartoons from the 80s. It is the 40th anniversary of quite a few very popular and well known cartoons. But the one we're talking about today is one that I had not actually seen until very recently, for reasons that may become obvious once we start talking about it. But I gotta say, I watched a fair amount for this episode, and I am kind of surprised how much I enjoyed it. It's a much better written episode than a lot of the shit that I watched from that era. So I was really surprised. But anyway, we're going to talk about that. That episode or that show, of course, is Gem, aka Gem and the Holograms, which was a, a Hasbro owned cartoon from that premiered in 1985 and went for 3 seasons, encompassing 65 total episodes, ending in May of 1988 when I was between 1 and 4 years old. Did not watch it at the time, only kind of knew about it later on. And then, yeah, like I said, it was one of those shows that I knew about for a long time, but I had never actually watched. But somebody who knows a lot about it, requested that we do an episode about that, is somebody who's been on the show quite a few times, my collaborator, my Doctor Who cohort, and just my longtime friend and colleague, Tai Gooden. Welcome back to the show.
It is good to be back. I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about Jim and the Holograms. It's fantastic. Fun,
Yeah,
ridiculous.
it's
It's
yeah,
a weird show. And it definitely was
very
was one of
much.
those series that aimed a lot at young girls at the time or whatever. So you had G.I. Joe, Transformers, other things of that ilk. And so this was kind of for the girls in a way, but the same type of bizarre shenanigans that you would see on any of those other cartoons also happens here in Gems. It's just same ridiculousness, different fun. Something that everyone can enjoy.
Yeah, totally. I was really surprised. So I knew the theme song, or a good amount of the theme song, because it's like a pretty indelible theme song, and I knew the look of the characters. It's very pink.
Yeah.
Um, and actually, my wife was Gem for Halloween one of the years before we were married. She wanted to go as Gem, and then I was just
Oh,
like,
cool.
oh, yeah, great, cool. Like,
Yeah.
so I kind of knew what it was. Um, but I knew it was about a singing group, and I knew it had some sort of like Hannah Montana ass thing in it, where like nobody could actually know her real identity for some reason.
Mhm.
But that's kind of all I knew. I did not know there was a sci-fi angle to it. I did not know that there was so much crime involved. I did not know that there were villains that were recurring. I just was like, I just did not know really what it was about. And it's also like, so this series was created specifically to be like a for girls,
I
GI
lost
Joe.
you there
Like
for a
that is
second.
the point of it. And Christy Marks, the screenwriter and author, was the creator of it. She also wrote on shows like GI Joe, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Captain Power, Conan the Adventurer later on. Um, and like it is a surprisingly grown up show, or at least mature themes. There were things in this, in the Ty gave me a list of episodes that she wanted to talk about, so I made sure to watch those. And there were definite themes in this that I was surprised. But yeah, so before we get too far into it, Ty, why don't you give us a little background on the show, and your background with the show, and also like why it kind of resonated for you so much.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So Jim, or as it's more colloquially known, Jim and the Holograms, follows a girl named Jerica Benton. So she's a young woman who inherits a big time music company from her father, Emmett, after he passes. And she also inherits a foster home for girls called Starlight House. Name of the music company is Starlight Music. So her father's business partner, Eric, has half of the company. She has half of the company. He wants to basically boot her out. He's kind of like a Tommy Mottola, like the Columbia record
Mm.
label guy from like the late 80s, early 90s. He's kind of like him a little bit. He's trying to boot her out and he wants to run the company his way and center the company on this rock group called the Misfits. So they're this really like punk rock girl group full of like people who just have big hater energy. Like they're loud, they're obnoxious, they knock people over. They're just absolutely ridiculous. And we'll talk a whole lot about them more a little bit more later. But he basically wants to push Jim out and not give her any of the things that are owed to her, anything that matters to her. So in the very first episode, she goes to him and she's like, "Hey, I want to use money from the company to be able to fix some things around the foster girl's home." He says, "No, none of that stuff matters. Get out of my way." He has no respect for her as a woman at all. So she ends up finding a pair of earrings. Those earrings lead her to a discovery that her father built this like AI computer and hologram projector called Synergy. And Synergy is housed in like a secret room at a drive-in that he owned. She ends up going to that drive-in, meeting Synergy, the AI, and she discovers that Synergy can turn her into a pop rock star named Jim. Her girlfriends that run the foster home with her end up becoming her backup singers, end up becoming like her keyboardist, drummer, all of her musicians and everything. And they form Jim and the Holograms. Their whole aim at first is just basically to take down the bad business partner, Eric, and the Misfits. Because the Misfits are about to win some like big battle of the bands. And they're like, well, if we win the battle of the bands, Misfits won't be as popular anymore. And then we can go ahead and get complete creative control of the company. So, like, the show's first 5 episodes kinda set up an arc that defines the entire show in its whole entirety or whatever. So, they end up going against each other in the battle of the bands. Jim and the Holograms end up winning, and the deal was if they won, they would get complete control of the company, Jerica would, and they would also be able to live in this really nice mansion. So they win, they get the mansion, the Misfits are mad, Eric Raymond's mad, and they spend pretty much every waking hour of the day trying to fight Jim and the Holograms, who are literally just out here trying to do like normal good people stuff. So that's kind of like it's a little bit of a wandering like overview, but basically you have Jim and the Holograms as a group, you have their rivals, the Misfits, the guy who leads their rivals, Eric Raymond, and every episode is Jim and the Holograms are usually trying to do some kind of good in the community, or they may have some small internal conflicts and stuff going on, and then the Misfits just run in and wreak havoc on anything that they're trying to do at all.
Yeah, yeah. So like that, much like they did with GI Joe, which had basically like a movie, a 5 episode kind of mini arc to kind of um set everything up. This show did that, as Ty said, and watching that was really like, that was where I was just like, wait, what's the show about? Like, because not only do they lose their foster home, like people burn it down like it's an accident, like they're just supposed to ransack the house. But
Yeah.
like Eric Raymond is a legit bad guy, who is hiring criminals all the time to like do, like to mess up Jem's like concerts and just like literally burn their house down. And then later on, he basically is holding some master tapes way later, like one of the much later episodes, um hostage, and Jerica goes to like plead with him, hey, please don't do this, like these mean a lot to me, and he just tosses them into a fire. Like he's a legitimately bad person.
Yes, they're the
And so
master
that was really
tapes that her
shocking to me.
mom recorded. Like her mom was a musician who ended up dying in a plane crash before the events of the entire series. And her mom had like some master tapes that Eric was holding on to just because he could. I don't know. They ended up finding out that these tapes exist. And yes, he takes them and just tosses them into a fire. Like, no recourse, no anything. And he's not only, I mean, he's dually mean because not only is he being mean to Jim and the Holograms, but then he's also just a jerk to Jerica too, not realizing that Jerica and Jim are the same person. So she has to deal with him just on the front end and the back end, and it really sucks for her. Like, he is an annoying person. But, like, that first 5-episode arc, I think, like, Kyle said, it just really functions as, like, a mini movie or, like, a mini series within itself to set everything up. The first 2 episodes are definitely 2 of my favorites. First episode is called The Beginning, which is pretty standard for a pilot or whatever. And so you get like a really good breakdown of kind of like where the world is, where Jerica is. You get a good understanding of like why she doesn't want to be able to reveal her alter ego. And a lot of it is because of synergy. And she doesn't want people to get access to that type of technology because they may use it for evil or use it for means that aren't going to help better the world, which is so relevant right now in 2025.
Yeah. Oh, very much so. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's crazy that
Yeah, I
that's
was
the
really
reason she doesn't wanna do
yeah.
it, you know?
Yeah. It's and I love it. So it kind of makes her a superhero. Like this is obviously like a stealth kind of superhero-y coded show. And I
Mhm,
think the fact that Christy Marks got her start writing on so many quote unquote boy cartoons, um and toy cartoons. That's the other thing is like a lot of these cartoons were people who had secret identities, like all that stuff, and were kind of in some way superhero coded. And I think it's really interesting that like there's this incredibly like powerful AI that literally can create illusions so realistic that they can terrify people or like fool people. Like there's a lot of times when Gem will be Gem, and that in order to like make people think that that she isn't Jerica, the Synergy will like create a a full version of Jericho who can just like go and talk to people. And it's just like
mhm.
it's bananas how complex this thing is. And the fact that it's all just in an effort to, because I don't like I the one thing that I was sort of like, why is this a problem? Like if anybody found out that Gem was actually Jericho, it would somehow jeopardize their ability to like have the company. Like that didn't quite hold water after the first like 4 episodes, but
Yeah.
um it's still part of the charm. It's part of the charm of the thing is like only a few people know who she is and all that stuff. And um she's got these she literally has magic words that 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 turn her forward and back. She's like, it's showtime, and then show's over, and it's just like that's fun. um and like I told you before we started recording, like I was legitimately surprised how much actual crime is committed by Eric Raymond and the Misfits and the various people that he hires. And like he at one point he has like a tech wizard guy who like builds this weird flying saucer essentially. And it's just it's so wild how sci-fi-y the show is.
Yes.
And then also it's super like soap opera-y. It's very like romance forward and stuff like that. There's no steering away from like relationships and smooching and stuff like that. I was just that's what I'm saying. Like for a show that was aimed at, girls who are probably 8 to, or maybe you're younger than that, but let's say like no older than 12. Like it's a very sophisticated show in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and I remember watching it the first time that I actually had exposure to it or whatever, I had a friend that actually had some episodes recorded on VHS tapes. And so I was at her house and I never watched it in order, never saw all 65 of the episodes until I was an adult and it actually became available on streaming, probably in like the early 2010s or whatever. But the first time I saw it was late 90s, early 2000s. So at this time, I'm probably about 12, 13 years old. So kind of at the tail end of the market that they were looking for, at the time. But I remember thinking that like even back then, just thinking that the show felt like it was really like smart and sharp because I was always reading above my level. I was always kind of watching things that were a little bit more adult oriented at times or whatever. And it didn't feel like it was talking down to me in a way that I felt like some of the shows that were geared at younger kids were. And the thing I thought about too when I was just kind of musing over, like, why wouldn't Jim? Because that's always a big question, right? Like, why didn't Jim tell anybody? And specifically, why didn't she tell her boyfriend Rio, who was someone she could always trust? He
Yeah.
never, betrayed her or anything like that. Like, why wouldn't she just tell him? She literally almost told him in the first episode, and she got interrupted by the Misfits, who like sprayed, I don't know, some kind of like foam or something in their face, just being ridiculous as they normally are. But it made a lot of sense to me when you think about it through like the eyes of like celebrity culture and celebrity worship and stuff, especially in today's times. But even back then, you think about big stars like during that time period, you've got, a thriller era Michael Jackson, thriller and bad era Michael Jackson, where he literally can't go outside and take a deep breath without cameras being in his face and people following him everywhere and stuff. And so it really gives her a chance to live that life of a superstar and experience that life and be able to help people and elevate people in that kind of way and motivate people. Like they even do a Jim and the Holograms do a benefit concert where they're helping people understand how important it is to learn how to read and to learn how to be, how important literacy is for us as a society. So she can do all of those things, but then she also can be Jerica and be the businesswoman, be the woman who has a boyfriend and runs the foster home and gets to interact with the girls and have her found family, but then also have her friendships and kind of the woman she can really have it all in both respects. And she doesn't have to worry about those one area of her life bleeding over into the other one and possibly overshadowing the other one as well. So that makes sense to
Yeah.
me. I'm like, I can see why
Eh,
you wouldn't want to
yeah.
mix those two together.
When it also like, she can go do the corporate stuff, like you said, and she can also run the foster home and all that stuff without really having to worry too much about the paparazzi or whatever. But,
Hmm.
I think, I mean, not that actually they do feature not like super prominently in the show, but they're around quite a bit, the press and the media and all that stuff. And, so yeah, I can see why that would be like beneficial, but it's part of the mystery of the show. Like nobody except like a few people knows who she is, who Jem really is, and that's like a one of the episodes you had me watch was you said it was your favorite. It's called The Fan from season 2, which is a legitimately unhinged episode. Um, but it's this rich man is so obsessed with Jem and wanting to know who she really is, and that's we'll get into the silliness of the episode, but it is like it really speaks to the parasocial relationships people have with
Hmm.
celebrity culture nowadays, and people thinking they know people and thinking they have ownership over the personas of people and everything like that. I find that it was way ahead of its time, because that's really something that there was fan culture, and like you mentioned, Michael Jackson and people like that who couldn't go outside, but now it's everywhere. Now it's so prevalent,
Right, especially
and
with social
it's
media.
people having these yeah, people having these one-sided relationships with people, and not even like celebrities. Like, I've had people, this is super low, but people listen to the show and then start talking to me as though we've met before, and it's like
Yeah.
we haven't. And then like, you know, it's not like I'm like, who are you? But like, it's a people think they if they spend enough time with somebody in terms of what they're putting forward, they do feel like they know the person. And it goes both ways. Like there's definitely like, I listen to a million podcasts with Paul F. Tompkins on it, and like
Mhm.
I have met him, but I would not say I know him. And yet or he definitely doesn't know me, but like I know a ton about his life and everything like that. And it's just like, okay, that's something that you just kind of, if you are not somebody predisposed to having I guess the ability to separate that, and recognize, oh, this is just a person who I see a part of their life,
Right.
then you wouldn't necessarily think that. So yeah, I thought that was just like
Yeah, and everybody feels
above
entitled
and
to know who
beyond
she
that
is. It's
episode being
like,
nuts.
why do you need to
Yeah.
know who she
Yeah,
is? What
yeah,
does
yeah.
it matter? And a lot of the like conceit of the show and a lot of the mischief that the show gets into is revolving around the misfits and Eric wanting to know who Jim is, and like this whole thing of like, we know she has some secret identity and she's keeping it a secret for a reason and we must find out why, because in their minds if you find out it's going to topple Jim and the Holograms career and just ruin everything. And I'm like, is it? Is it? But why? Why would it destroy her career to actually find out who she was? Like, even if somebody legit found out, it's not really gonna destroy her career. People like who she is already, but they were convinced. So and that's the same thing with the fan. Like, you have this rich guy that wants to know who Jim is. And so Jim literally gets kidnapped by like the misfits, and they come up with an entire like staged like Starlight Mansion. So they like build this whole like set of sorts. They have these actors who somehow have almost flawless disguises on. Like they look just like her friends, her boyfriend, her
Yeah.
sister, like everyone. And I'm sitting there thinking like this is so again, it's so bizarre. But then also if Synergy can make a hologram that you can stand right in front of and think it's a person, like this isn't too far-fetched, for people to put on like wigs and masks and things like that. So Jim is there and she's so confused from the very beginning because they're like, "Oh, we're having a birthday celebration for you." And she's like, "It's not my birthday. Like my birthday's June the 1st. Today's not June the 1st." And people are there like her friends, her boyfriend, her sister, and they're trying to throw a for the prize birthday party, and they're just being weird towards her in general. Like, and it's just the actors are terrible. Like they look the part, but they are just being strange the whole time. There's even one actor who is standing right in front of her. Jim says, "If you want to know who I really am, just ask my sister." And the actor doesn't catch on to that at all. That Kimber is literally standing in the room, and that's Jim's sister. So Jim is Jerica. Like, you big dummy. They don't catch on to that. The misfits who are watching like through a bunch of cameras that are poorly hidden don't catch on to that because there are cameras like there's like a little like faux plant in a corner, and there's just a big old camera, like the big cameras that people have on their shoulders, sitting in the plant, like pointed directly at Jim's face. And I'm like, girl, like I thought you were smart, but are you smart? You're supposed to be like this big time, savvy
What
businesswoman, philanthropist, all of this stuff, and you can't see that big old camera sitting in that bush over there. Seriously?
it's so it because yeah, it starts with so this rich guy puts an ad in the paper. He demands to know, and then the misfits come and they're like, "Well, we have this plan," and then cut to they've already built an exact replica of the inside and outside of
Yes.
the mansion. They have these perfect disguises. They have all this stuff, and so like it's like a legit parallel universe, and Jem is just like, I don't know what's happening right now. And yeah, like she keeps like alluding to the reality of stuff and people don't know all this stuff. I think my favorite part of the episode though is that at one point she walks into a wall and like hits her head or something kind of silly, and then she
Yes.
wakes up in a hospital and all her people are there and they're like, "Oh yeah, we found out that that was all fake and everything like that." But that was still fake. I was like,
Yes.
that's really smart. That's like a really genius thing. Like, and then the real people finally come in and like, drop the
Of
dime and all that stuff.
course.
But it's just like
They bust in
she's
at the
so
last
close to like,
minute.
yeah,
Right when she's
yeah.
about to change. I'm like, "Oh, brother." My favorite part of the episode is when they all try to attempt to rehearse because 'cause they're supposed to be getting ready to put on a show soon. So, naturally, she's like, "You guys stop, like,
Right.
messing around. We need to get in here and rehearse." And the actors are like, "Oh, okay." You could tell, like, "Oh, brother, this is not what they signed up for." Because, again, this is one of, like supposed to be, like, one of the hottest, like, pop rock bands in the nation right now, you know? So they get into rehearsal. Jim's on the microphone. Everybody's back there, with their different instruments and stuff. She starts singing. And the first couple of times she sings, everybody just stands there and stares. And she's like, "What's wrong with you guys? Like, come on, come on." They start playing, and it's just like a cacophony of like just loud, screechy sounds and everything. The person that's supposed to be portraying her friend Aja, who is like the lead guitarist, has the guitar upside down, like, they have no idea what they're doing, and I'm like, "Come on, Jim, like, if that's not cluing you in that these people are frauds and there's something really weird going on, then nothing else should," because they had no musical talent whatsoever, and I'm like, "You wouldn't think to hire an actor who could at least fake their way through a song or something?" Like, it's like they got people off the streets and were just like, "Here, put on this
Yeah.
costume," and gave them like
Babadida day.
a
Yeah.
gave them like a cliff notes of what their person's personality was like and was like, "Get in there and get it done." And like the misfits are so pissed. I'm like, "You idiots. Could have figured it out. She literally told you who she
Also, like,
was."
hire a cover band.
Right? Somebody with some sort of
Like,
talent.
yeah.
It's so ridiculous. The busting
God
in at
dang,
the
that
end
was
and
such
finally
a
figuring it out.
it is
It's so much
ridiculous.
fun. It is my favorite episode. I mean, because it literally just shows like the lengths that the misfits will go to try to bring Jim down, expose her identity. Like every single episode, they commit some sort of crime. From the very first episode, like, Kyle
Yeah.
alluded to earlier, when they like have a hand in they're all on a yacht. No, it's the second episode, disaster. So Jim and the holograms on this really nice yacht with like a philanthropist, and everybody's having a good time. There are innocent people on this yacht that, I mean, they're just there partying, having a good time. The misfits just like take a boat and start like they come onto the yacht. They're hitting people in the face with like cream pies or something like that. They're flipping things over. They're singing their song "We're Making Mischief," just going absolutely crazy. And then the yacht ends up going off course. Like they take it over, end up like getting it off course, and then the yacht starts careening towards like an oil tanker or something like that, and they're literally about to blow up a yacht with dozens of innocent people on it. They almost hit Jim in one episode with like no, Jerica. They almost hit her with a bulldozer in one episode. Like they just so many crimes are
Yeah.
committed. kidnapping, extortion, like, assault. They assault people at
Yeah.
random. If you're standing in their way, it would be like, if you're in the grocery store and you're at the front of the line and the misfits come to the back of the line and they hate you, they would just beat everyone up between the back of the line and the front of the line where you are to get to you, to just get to your face and be like, "I hate you, you suck," and walk away. Because they never really seem to do a whole lot physically to Jim and the Holograms. Like,
N
they just
no.
take out all of their physical, like, pain and frustration on everyone else, and I'm like, it's so ridiculous. So, so ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, the bulldozer thing was really because they're annoyed that the rich guy allowed because they have already burned down the foster home. So let's start with that. They have
Yes.
already burned down the foster home. And then they get annoyed that the rich guy who is putting up his mansion for the winner of the Battle of Bands to live in, and he just allows the the band and the girls to live there while, in the interim, I guess. And one of the misfits, I think it's shoot, I can't remember if it's Roxy or Pizzazz. One of they all have ridiculous names, but um the two evil ones. Cuz
Yes.
Stormer, which I want to talk about, she's nice. She's nice.
Yeah.
She's a good person. Who just happens to be with shitty people. But one of them gets so mad that he did this that she jumps into a bulldozer and like tries to kill Jem and like knock down the house, and it is out of control.
Yes.
Um
They
and
also
then at
push
the
him into
end
a
of the
pool.
whole thing, yeah, right. And at the end of the whole thing, they have, successfully won and all this stuff and exposed, the kidnapping scheme and all this stuff. And Jerica and Rio go to the office, and uh Eric Raymond is there, not in prison, like he's been fired and all this stuff, and he takes like evidence or whatever. And they're just like, how come you're not in prison? And he goes, "Oh, I
Yes.
have very good lawyers." And it's like, that is such a rich guy thing to do, and I'm so
Yes.
annoyed that that happened.
And
It
it's
really, I mean,
believable
even back
because
then,
that
man.
is what rich
Oh
guys
yeah.
do. Like, I'm like, "Oh my god, it's absolutely, absolutely ridiculous." But, I mean, the one thing I do like about Jim and the life that she's kinda curated around her, like I said, with the found family, having good friendships, and getting a chance to kind of be the woman that, quote, unquote, "has it all," or whatever, is that she got a chance to honor her mom's life.
Mhm.
And that's so fun to me because as the show continues to progress on and stuff, we begin to learn more. Because it's always kind of that question of like, okay, we know that their father passed and everything, Kimber and Jim's father passed, but what happened to their mom? And so we start to learn a little bit more about their mom, Jackie, as the show progresses, and you come to discover that their mom was actually a musician, a gifted, songwriter and singer who wanted to pursue a career in music, but she never got a chance to because she met their dad. Their dad's a successful businessman, and she decided to give that up to become a mom and to, stay at home and do all of those things. But music always burned in her heart. And just when she was getting ready to kind of relaunch herself and get herself back out there, the plane crash happens. She passes and she never really gets to see her dreams come to fruition. And she also grew up a foster kid too. So you can see where even though
Mhm.
Jackie is not a part of the show's storyline and everything that happens where her happens, before the events of the series, she still has a really big impact, not only on what Emmett built because he literally modeled Synergy's personality and all of that stuff after his wife months after he lost her. But then Jim gets to honor her mom too. She's, taking care of foster kids, making sure that they're doing well, trying to give them a better chance at life. And then she gets to live that musician life too and kind of carry on the things that her mom, like even with those how we had talked about the tapes earlier that they burned, they were able to use Synergy to find, copies of those recordings, and they were able to release that unreleased music and kind of give her mom the thing that she never got a chance to get. So you have the silliness and the ridiculous stuff in there with the misfits, like beating people up and tearing things down, and the just unbelievableness of having holograms running around everywhere and stuff. But then you also have stuff that's really, really touching and really heartfelt. And a lot of the show is really about kind of shaping your identity in a way that you see fit and not really backing off of your boundaries. And I could see, I'm not somebody that identifies as queer, but I could definitely see if you were, maybe a young queer kid watching this in the 80s where a lot of it would have resonated with you of like, huh, like these personality types and the things that they're doing and stuff like that. There's something about this that speaks to me, but I can't necessarily put a name to it. And I'm
Mhm.
sure that there were a lot of kids that found kind of saw themselves and found themselves there. The show is really diverse too. And that's one thing I really
Very.
appreciated about it more as an adult, more than when I first saw it as a kid, because you look at Jim's band, like, Jim is a she's a cisgendered white lady, and she's really pretty, so she kinda fits the standard typical definition of what you consider to be attractive for a lot of people. But there's also Shayna, who's she's a Black American, and she's the drummer at first, and then becomes the bassist later on. You have Aja, who is of Asian descent, and she's on the lead guitar, like I mentioned before. And then, I mean, you have Kimber's sister, who of course is also white. But then later on, you have a fifth member that joins the band as a drummer named Raya, and Raya is of she's like of like Latin heritage. So it's a really diverse band and diverse group of people. The kids at the foster home are diverse, and everybody is good to each other. Everyone treats each other, well and with respect. And I mean, some of the cultural things that they do kind of float up in the show, they do it in a way that doesn't necessarily feel like ham-fisted or like a, super after school special or any of that stuff like that. They do it in a way that actually feels pretty seamless and natural, and it doesn't take away from the general tone of the show, which is bright colors and fun songs and ridiculous things and mostly fun. Like, they still are managed to slip those things in there in a way that kids can understand, but it doesn't shift the show away from what it's meant to be.
Yeah, I that was sort of like, one of the, I guess two of the episodes, but you asked me to watch was the Gem Jam part 1 and part 2, and in
Mhm,
that it focuses a lot. Basically, the premise of that is that they gather a bunch of uh famous musicians for this big like charity concert, and they're all like, there's a guy who's basically Stevie Wonder, and there's Lena Lerner. Guess who she is
mhm.
supposed to be?
I love
Um
that.
and her son is basically Michael Jackson. Like, that was sort of the, I think, implication there. Like, I mean, they're all very similar. And then there's like a Madonna type, and I think one of them's supposed to be like Bruce Springsteen or somebody like that.
Mhm,
Um, but throughout the whole episode or the story, there's one of the foster girls and they don't ever really talk about it like fully implied, but she is of mixed Vietnamese and white descent, and
mhm.
she does not know her parents, but she does know that her father was this redheaded white guy, basically.
Yeah.
And so she meets the drummer for one of the bands who is redheaded, and she just assumes and that he has been to Vietnam before, so she just assumes it must be him and all this stuff. And it's sort of like this, you know, she just yeah, it's a kind of a tough storyline, really. But I was sort of like, oh wow, they're talking about the fact that GIs were in Vietnam and they like
Mhm,
slept around and left, that kind of thing. Like, without putting too fine a point on it, that is what the episode is really about, is that there are a lot of these, like, I guess, like, war babies, who don't have, um who are left orphans or anything like that. And I just thought that was like, wow, I can't believe they're doing that. And also, like, she's not a one-off character. Like, she's in more episodes after that.
yeah. Yeah,
It's
Bonnie
not just
definitely has a
like,
pretty big
you
part
know
in the series, for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I felt so
Which is
bad
great.
for
Like,
her.
yeah.
Poor baby.
Yeah. I know. She was really upset and all this stuff. And but I was just like, that is a surprisingly um mature topic for a cartoon that was on, whatever Saturday mornings or whatever it was. So um I really gotta hand it to, and also I think it helps a lot that, like, Christy Marks wrote the majority of at least the first season, and then there were a lot more people in the next two seasons. But
Mhm.
the fact that she effectively was the showrunner of seasons 2 and 3, and there were also so many other, like, women who wrote for the show,
Yeah.
um, and were able, and there were, like, there were comic book writers too. There was, like, Marv Wolfman and, Michael Reeves and Paul Dini, like, they all wrote episodes on this. But, um, and Roger Slifer was I think he was, like, the executive story editor or something so like that early on. But,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
y uh, Gargoyles creator Greg Weisman wrote an episode. Like, it's all sorts, it's a really interesting kind of mix of people. But I like the fact that it very clearly comes from the point of view of not belittling the girls that are watching this, or not talking down to them or anything
Mhm,
like that. And kind of the lead characters are really, they're not vapid in any way. Like, they're all really deep and complex people, and with, like, you know, Jerica is very successful, and even like the couple episodes where Shayna goes to, you know, work at a design as a designer and then comes back to join the band and all that stuff. It's like these are accomplished women who do
Yeah.
things. They all grew up in foster, not all of them, but several of them grew up in foster care, and then you kind of see like even the misfits are not necessarily just one dimensional, because there's the, you know, like I alluded to earlier, like Stormer is really nice and she tries to be helpful but then is sort of like fallen in with this horrible crowd of people. And then
Mhm.
there's the episode, which I was really not expecting, that is all about how Roxy is doesn't know how to read, and so it's
Right.
the whole episode is about being like not being ashamed of that and like actually like taking steps to learn. I was just like, and that was like late season 2 episode. Like I was really shocked
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, yeah, Roxy
Um,
Rumbles is definitely one of my favorite episodes, and I mean, even a lot of, like, the tertiary characters, like a lot of the girls at the, Starlight House and everything, like, a lot of those characters, even though you don't see them a whole lot, you still get pretty solid, like, storylines behind them, or when they are on
yeah.
screen, they actually have things to say that matter, and those stories and stuff matter, like what happened with Bonnie and thinking that the guy with the red hair was her dad, and even in, Jim Jam, one of the kind of, I guess it was probably more like a B storyline in there was with Chrissy and the young boy who is Lena Lerner's son, Dominic. And of course, Lena Lerner is Tina Turner, but she has this son who literally looks just like a Thriller era Michael Jackson, like dresses like him, has similar features as him, all of that stuff. And he's hanging out with
Yeah,
the,
moonwalks at one point.
moonwalks even, like, but he's a
Yeah.
total, like, nepo baby brat who ends up spending time around the girls that are at the Starlight, mansion, and one of the girls is Chrissy, and Chrissy and him kind of have a lot of back and forth because he's really bratty and nasty towards her. Obviously, can tell that he thinks he's better than she is and all of those things, and at first, she's thinking of the mind of, "Okay, maybe I need to put up with him. Maybe this is just how the world is. He's rich, I'm not, so he deserves to treat me that way." And then she finally does an entire song where she stands up to him and is like, dude, stop being a jerk and a butthole and treat people with some respect and stop being an idiot. Like, she stands up for herself in a really, really powerful way and, turns things back around on him like, hey, you're not a perfect person. It's okay if you stop being mean to everybody and you would actually open yourself up and see other people as people, then maybe you'll actually have friends and you'll get a whole lot more out of life than just kind of being a bratty loner. And they actually come to like an agreement and form somewhat of like a pseudo friendship by the end of that arc or whatever. But like stories like that, they matter too to show that, hey, Chrissy deserves like respect and she deserves to be treated like a person and stuff. And it's not okay to belittle and bully others who you deem to be less than you or who have less than you, Like
Yeah.
messages that you're getting out to kids, but again, not doing them in like a really like beating over top of the head, like ham-fisted type of way.
Yeah, I was really blown away by so much of this. Like, it was really like, um, you know, because I grew up that this period, like I said, like I was 1 when this show premiered, but like there it was most of these shows were in syndication for a long time. And I remember watching G.I. Joe and Transformers and everything like that. And I don't remember those. I mean, granted, those are action shows, but like I don't remember them having nearly as like complex a storyline, maybe like once in a while.
Mhm.
Um, and this was the period of time like the deregulated Reagan era where cartoons were basically just extended toy commercials.
Yeah.
And I know I've talked about before how so much, you know, like because there were so many cartoons coming out at once because they were all kind of based on trying to sell stuff, that they actually uh every cartoon needed at least 65 episodes in order to become syndicated. They uh, uh, Writers were able to kind of like imbue a lot of, you know, kind of more depth to a lot of this stuff where available. But I truly do not remember any cartoons that I watch. And maybe if I go back and watch them, it'll be different. But like being this kind of like complex and, you know, emotionally resonant in a lot of ways. And yes, it's still like aimed at kids. Like it's very obvious. And like some of the
Mhm.
stuff is really like, um, you know, I won't say dumbed down, but it's definitely less complex narratively than some other things. But like the themes at work are just really, really like I can't say enough about it. Like it was really a surprise how much of this was like um, this is gonna sound really, like, condescending, but, like a grown-up show. Do you know what I mean? Like, it did
Yeah.
not feel like a stupid kid show.
Well, no, I mean, it goes back to what you were saying before about it kind of having like this soap opera element. So, I
Yeah.
mean, they treated kids with enough like respect, understanding that they could keep up with all of these kind of multiple arcs and storylines that are kind of layered over top of each other. So there's not like just one main arc for a season. You have, your A storyline, B storyline, you have some C storylines, you have some other like incidental things that are going in there. A lot of things are kind of connecting from one to the other. So, I mean, there are episodes that you can kind of cherry pick out and watch and still have a general understanding of the show, especially if you've seen like the first few episodes of it. But it actually works together once I got a chance to go back a few years ago when it was streaming. And now it's currently streaming on Tubi as of this recording. But before it was on Netflix. And when I was able to go
Mm,
back and watch it during that time and actually see the entire 65 episodes, like every episode is not necessarily hitting it out of the park or not necessarily my favorite, but they all definitely have their place within the overall storytelling. Like you don't feel like there's a lot of filler there.
mm-mm.
And that's really, really interesting, especially for them to be able to
Yeah,
get all of these things across in episodes that are 22, 23 minutes long and have like 8 to 10 minutes of like just jams. Like every
yeah.
episode has like 3 songs in there. It's either like the Misfits singing or Jim and the Hologram singing. Sometimes like the episode that Shayna went off to go pursue her fashion career, and that was when Raya came in and kind of took her place because they did a whole talent search thing and everything. But either way, like that was one episode where we got to see more depth from her character. And she had her own like song about kind of stepping out of her own and having some fears about that or whatever, and not being sure if she wanted to leave the comfort of that group and that setting, and what it would be like to kind of step into this new realm and this new chapter of her life. So you get a chance to get like some songs from people that are doing some individual things. Some of them are like super bubblegum pop rock, and some of them are, a little bit like deeper. You even have like Bonnie sing a song who was looking for her father about, missing having a parent and wanting that like parental love and all of that. So there's a wide range of like emotional depth and stuff, even when it comes to the songs that they're presenting as well.
Yeah, it was sort of obviously, I did not watch all 65 episodes. I watched the highlights that Ty suggested. So, I don't know if this is the case, but, like, I was very surprised that in all of the episodes that I watched, I think only, Making Mischief, which is the Misfits song,
Mhm.
was in more than one episode. Like, I mean, there's, Truly Outrageous, of course, which is the theme song,
Yeah.
um, uh but, like, the fact that they're writing 2 to 3 brand new songs, and they're not full songs, they're, usually only about 30, 45 seconds, maybe a minute long, at most, but they're writing basically new songs every episode. Um, that's incredible, like, the fact that they
Yeah.
were devoting so much time to it, and they're all presented on screen, like, with the name name of the song and the band, like it's a TV or a music video, because this is obviously
Yeah.
right in the heyday of MTV. Um, and so that was really, like, surprising too. Now, I will say, as much as I'm praising the show, and I do think actually the animation's really good. Toei Animation did this.
Mhm.
They're the people who also animated, Transformers, but then also you did, like, Sailor Moon and a lot of other TV shows. Like, they're one of Japan's, like, um,
Yeah.
biggest,
You definitely
animation
see that
studios.
Sailor Moon-esque
100%.
vibe there. Yeah.
Um, I was not 100% on board with, like, I don't think the Misfits songs were that different from the Gem and the Hologram songs. I thought
No.
they were actually pretty similar. Um, and I also don't think that, like, yeah, and I also don't think the Misfits as a band, other than just their personalities, were all that separate. Like, everybody who is a musician on this has, like, like, big, huge hair and like,
Yeah.
wild makeup. Like, I would have actually like, if the Misfits had been legit, not. And by the way, there is a band called the Misfits, but they're completely different. Um, that's like a goth punk band.
Mhm.
But it would have been kind of better if they were something, a little more distinct, I guess, but they are just sort of another girl group. Um, and
Yeah, they are
also,
definitely copy paste, like Jim and the
yes,
Holograms and the Misfits. Everybody has unnatural colored hair even.
very
Like,
much,
that was
yeah.
the funny part about the talent search is that You have all of these, like, very regular looking, like, young women come in because 'cause they're trying to be the next drummer in Jim and the Holograms, and the minute that Raya walks in the door, I'm like, "She's got the job." She has, like, cool hair. She's got on fun makeup, and she's got cool hair that you can't be in Jim and the Holograms and have, like, normal hair. Forget putting on a wig, I guess. I think your hair just has to be, like, funky colored, so it was a dead giveaway that she was about to be the next one in the group because I'm like, "She's got cool hair." Everybody looks weird.
Yeah. And even like Rio has like purple hair. Like they're all kind of, and maybe that was just so I was watching it on YouTube. It's like there is a channel called Has TV Classic, which is all the old Hasbro cartoons. You can watch them
Mhm.
all. Um you can watch G.I. Joe episodes. You can watch what are some of the other ones? I think it might just be those ones actually. I think it's just G.I. Joe and Gem and the Holograms. But anyway, perfectly fine. Uh there's lots to watch there, but like everything is kind of pink toned, everything.
Yes.
So I wasn't sure if that was like uh just the transfer that I was watching, or if it was meant to be purple, but like yeah, everybody has pretty wild colored hair. Even like, what's the sister's name?
Kimber.
Uh Kimber. Uh has red hair, but it's like
Yeah. Fiery
red
red. Yeah.
red hair.
Like Lion-O, like, type of red.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, very much so. Um So yeah, that was, that was kind of fun. And then the other thing I have to say is so like partway through season 2, they change the theme song. And that
Don't like
second
it.
theme song sucks
It
wad. I do
sucks.
not
I
like it.
don't like that song at all. Thank you for bringing that up because I definitely was going to bring
You're
it
welcome.
up. I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh my god," and I didn't even think about it until I went back and started watching a couple of episodes in, like, the last couple of weeks, honestly, and I'm like, "Yo, that I forgot how much I don't like that theme song." Skip intro every time. Like, I was
Oh
watching it
yeah.
on Tubi, and I'm like, "Boo, let's go by that." I don't know whose idea that was to change it, but it was not great.
No, and
Like
it felt so much like a toy commercial, whereas like the first one, and that's the one they went back to for season 3, but like it's like a unique song. Like easily the best song on the show.
mhm,
And then the second one, the alternate one, it just feels like a toy commercial. Like it's just like me and my friends are gem girls or whatever. It's like
right.
it's just like it just doesn't fit. It doesn't fit the vibe.
Yeah, but I
Um
get it. If the show's popular, comes to the second season, you're trying to sell more things. So it's probably just some boring marketing executive like we should change it. It should be about this. When the first theme song functioned as a theme song should, which is to kind of encompass and tell the story of what you're about to watch.
yeah,
I don't know what that second one was doing, but big boo to that. Like, the theme song got worse, but the sound quality got better. One of my
that's
favorite things
true.
about season 1 is that sometimes the background music is so loud that you can't hear the dialogue. It's
Yeah,
great. There are certain scenes, and I just was cracking up watching it because I'm like, the more you turn up your TV, the music is just, like, blasting, and it's just, like, 80s synth, like, and then the people are like the voices of like the characters are like whispering like under the thing, and I'm like, "What?" There are no subtitles on Tubi. I don't know if subtitles exist any of the other place. Maybe if you're watching it on YouTube, you might be able to pull some like computer generated subtitles or something. So I was just like, I had to watch certain scenes like a couple of times just to be like, "What are these people saying?" Because the background music is it's just blasting, and there's background music pretty much the entire like episode.
oh
It's
yeah,
wild. Like, it's
it
never
is.
quiet. Yeah.
It is very wall to wall music. Over 200 original songs were written for the series.
They don't repeat songs. Like, they really
Yeah,
don't, outside of that Misfit song, which is, like, their theme song, obviously. Yeah, I can't recall a time that they've repeated a song. There may be maybe 1 or 2 of those songs in that mix, but again, it's so many songs, like, at least 2 to 3 of them per episode, and then you're
yeah.
multiplying that by 65, you know? I can't recall a time that they repeated a song.
Absolutely. It was wild. And they like obviously went to the trouble of getting um singers to sing the like there were particular like the old Disney cartoons, honestly, like the 90s era where they would have the vocal like the speaking voice, and then they would also have like a separate singing voice.
Right, right.
That was basically true for all of these. There was Britta Phillips who was the voice of Jem singing, and that is I would say more than half of the episode a lot of the time.
Mhm.
Whereas Samantha Newark played the speaking voice of
Speaking
Jem and
voice.
Jerica.
Mhm.
Um, uh, like, and they're so distinct. There is a very distinct style to everybody. Um, and a lot of them do not have like extended voice acting backgrounds. Now there were quite a lot of actors in this who were well known to people who pay attention to voice actors. Like um, Eric Raymond was played by Charlie Adler, who is like a
Mhm.
legend. Played Buster Bunny and uh, Ickis on Real Monsters, and just tons and tons of like
Yeah,
very
yeah.
well known characters. And then Kath Soucie came in the third season to play Minx, and Townsend Coleman played Riot. He was Michelangelo on the Ninja Turtle show. The aforementioned Rich simp, I guess, essentially in the second episode that was voiced. That was very. I was like, that is a young Rob Paulson if I've ever heard one.
Yes.
Um, and then even like people who did not have like super well-known careers, or like afterwards. Michael Sheehan, is that his name? Michael Sheehan, I believe is how you pronounce it.
I think so.
Played Rio, and he was the first Builder Beaver on Zoobly Zoo. So there you go. Love all that stuff. Susan Blue is a well-known performer. She played RC in Transformers, but she was Stormer. And Louise Dorsey, who is Engelbert Humperdinck's daughter, played Jeddah, who is the British like con artist who joins the Misfits in the second season. So anyway, I was just like, oh yeah, these are all like really early performances by a lot of very
Mhm.
well-known voice actors and stuff like that. Anyway, I always want to shout out the voice actors because that's my favorite thing. But I do love that they found specific singing voices for just about everybody. Everybody who sang basically had their own singing voice actor.
Yeah, yeah, and that carries through, I mean, even in season 3, which at that point, season 3 is a lot shorter. The first 2 seasons, are definitely, like, twice as long as season 3, and season 3
Yeah,
is kind of like
very
where
much.
things start you don't have Christy Marks writing as many of those episodes anymore. Things just kind of start kind of taking a bit of a downhill decline, which is so why it's kind of surprising that it didn't go past, or not surprising that it didn't go past season 3. But they do introduce this new group called the Stingers, and they're like all like super bleach blonde German. They have terrible German accents or whatever, but they're supposed to be yet another rival group. And it just, it's like they don't have the like chutzpah and everything. Like they're mean,
Mm-mm.
but they're just kind of mean in a more like behind the scenes manipulative way versus being mean and kind of like that like super like comedic physical way that the Misfits were, that I feel like is a lot more effective in the show. But we do get Minx, and Minx is the one of the band members there. She's not so much like a mean and terrible person like the way that Pizzazz is, where she's just like big hater energy. Like, I'm just gonna beat everybody up and scream and like crash out all the time. But she's more mean and like I'm really pretty, I'm kind of self-absorbed, I'm really arrogant. I kind of feel like everything should revolve around me. She's like always trying to push up on Jerica's boyfriend Rio and all of that. So it's so funny to me that she ends up getting her own episode in season 3, A Change of Heart, where she has a like a near death experience. She basically goes out into the ocean being stupid, not listening to anybody, and this massive wave that no person would ever survive like comes over and like knocks her over.
Yeah, very much.
And so Rio jumps out in the ocean, he saves her and everything like that. And so she becomes nice to a fault, like to the point that she's annoying people and like forcing her niceness on them and making herself like inserting herself into people's lives. Like she even like has Jim like pinned down and has people like forcibly do a makeover, like on no, not Jim, Jerica pinned down and forcibly do a makeover on her. She's like, well, me and Rio are in love now in my mind. So I'm going to give you a makeover because I'm really nice. So you can go find another boyfriend. And it's like, that's insane. Like she just starts
Yeah.
overstepping a bunch of boundaries and everything. She just drives everyone crazy. And the episode is so funny because I mean, she's just kind of that like again, so self-absorbed and so ditzy that even her attempts to be nice are just annoying to everybody. And then she eventually realizes she's annoying everybody. She crashes out and goes back to like, well, I guess I should go back to just being a self-absorbed pretty girl. So her niceness list that she had to be able to make amends with everyone quickly gets tossed and thrown in the trash. But I love that episode. Like I'm not a huge fan of season 3. I thought that like the ending of the series was fine for what it is. I mean, you did get some sort of like finality. It didn't end on like a weird cliffhanger or anything like that. But that episode to me is like just one of the best episodes. I love a really like character centric episode like that. And I like a lot of the two-part stories. I
Hmm.
think just about every two-part story throughout the series are ones that I've definitely enjoyed.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I agree. I thought they were really good. Um, I thought it was very. I was really not into the stingers either. But I do like that episode. Um, and it was kind of an interesting sort of like, oh, okay. It's weird that the kind of the misfits kind of took a back seat, but um, at least in the episodes that I watched. But um,
Yeah.
it's yeah. Not the best, but I'm glad to hear. I did not watch the very last episode, but Christy Marks did write that one, so I'll need to watch
Mhm.
that one. Um, but yeah, it was a good smattering of episodes. I think you picked some, ones that I thought were really really interesting, um and yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. Not more than pleasantly surprised. I was like very pleasantly surprised. I added the word very. Um, with it, I did not expect to kind of vibe with the show as much as I did. I don't know if I'm gonna watch every single episode, but I'm
Yeah.
very happy that I watched it for this. And I was doing some reading about the feature film that came out 10 years ago,
Mm.
and everybody seems to hate it.
I too hate that film. It missed the whole point. I mean, I
Right?
don't know.
Yeah.
They just used the name, but it missed the whole point of what Jim and the Holograms was about. So they kind of repurposed it of like, okay, this, girl uploads this video onto, online and then becomes this huge star. And it's kind of like, how stardom and fame changes you and all of that stuff. And that has nothing to do with what Jim and the Holograms is about. The themes are, again, like identity and shaping your identity. It's about setting boundaries with people and, respecting other people's boundaries and stuff like that as people continue to grow and shape themselves into who they want to be. It's about found family. Like a big part of it is really about like found family. And it's really about like taking your platform, whatever platform you have, and using it to do good and to put more good into the world. And it just,
Hmm.
it missed all of those points completely. It was literally just Jim and the Holograms by name, not by spirit in
Yeah.
any kind of way. Like, terrible. Saw it once, and
Yeah.
then I was like, "Let's scrub as much of that from my memory bank as I possibly can." Ugh.
Yeah, it didn't when it came out, I was sort of like, is that maybe that's why I thought that the show was different because like that's what the movie was. And I was like, is that I guess that was what the show was like, but like um it there's no kind like there's no glossiness to anything, and I watched the trailer for it and I was just like, this is completely different. They obviously younged down everybody.
Mhm.
Um there's still the misfits, but I don't know how much they feature, but like it completely felt like a different thing. And it has like a
Yeah.
4.2 on IMDb. Like people really do not like it.
Yeah, no, the characters, none of them just they don't even kind of really brush past the ethos of the characters that they're inspired by. Like none of the character development or anything like that is nowhere near as like, complex and grounded and as strong as it is in the animated series. Like it was not good. I went to go see it just because I was curious, and at that
Sure.
time I actually had gotten a chance to see Jim and the Holograms in its entirety. So I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, there's a movie." And like, I don't remember seeing the trailer. I just remember knowing that it was a thing coming out and being like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna go to the movies and check it out." Because maybe it'll be like a cool, maybe it's like a cool remake or something like that. So I took, and at the time my daughter was pretty young, so she was right kind of in the age group that they're, aiming for. So, took her to the movies and stuff. And I mean, she enjoyed it well enough, but also had watched a lot of the animated series with me. And I think even then, as young as she was maybe 6 or 7, maybe 6 around then. And she was just like, that was okay. I guess like
Mm,
even a kid is like, this is not great. Like a small kid like that is like, I guess. But she got good taste.
yeah. I mean, I feel like there was I mean, granted it was a fairly low budget effort. Or I won't say low budget. I don't know what the budget was, but it was definitely like its aspirations were lower. But like it just seems ripe for like updating. Yeah, it's not quite the same, but like we're in a, this is the age of pop again. Like it's back to being where pop music is everything. There,
Right.
rock is dead. Basically country and hip hop only, hip hop less so, but country basically only is hanging on by being pop music. Like everything is just super poppy nowadays. And so like why wouldn't there be some sort of, and maybe I don't know what they thought. I don't know what they thought. But
Yeah.
um it was it was an experiment that it appears did not work with people. I am not compelled to watch it. I just don't think it looks good, and knowing that it
No,
isn't good is more reason not to watch it, but
you did good by just watching the animated series. I mean, I think, especially now where things are just kind of saturated with a whole bunch of streaming things, both good and bad. And sometimes people just want to watch something that's a little bit like less of a mental lift, but something that also you can find things in it that resonate with you. That's a fun watch. You'll get some like legit, genuine laughs out of it and stuff. Like the animated series, perfect.
right. Yep. And it's just wild that it was directed by John M. Chu, who of course went
I
on to
know.
direct Wicked and um Crazy Rich Asians and In the Heights, but he also directed G.I. Joe Retaliation. So maybe he was just on the Hasbro like radar.
Right.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, that poor guy. He did his best, I guess, but yeah, that the story was not
Sure.
story was not giving. I mean, and that's not his fault. But yeah, this the storyline and the way that they tried to adapt Gem and the Holograms was not good at all. It's been it's like banned. I know they for the last 20 years there's been a Gem Con at Con. I've never had a chance to go. I low key kind of want to go this year though, but they definitely
Sure.
like don't talk about that at all. There's actually a Gem
Yeah.
Con. Gem Con this year is going to be in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is only like a couple of hours from where I live. So I'm kind
Mm,
of thinking about going. Like it seemed like it'd be fun. They're going to have Christy Marks there. They'll have quite a few of the voice actors there. Have some of the like other like production designers and just other people that were involved behind the scenes are going to be there. So it seems like it could be a good time. And also, is there are not better characters honestly that you can cosplay than like the Misfits or Gem and the Holograms. They are cosplay gold.
and they're just so distinct. Like they all have their own color schemes and
Yes.
kind of vibes and styles and stuff like that. Yeah, totally. Totally. Yeah. Well, I was blown away. I have to say, I was blown away. And this is not hyperbole. I legitimately, like, I'm not sitting here saying it's the best cartoon I've ever watched or anything like that. But from what I knew about it, which was nothing, to
Mhm.
what I now think of it, it's night and day. So thank you, Ty, for pushing this on me, insisting
You're
that I watch Gem.
you're welcome. Sometimes I
Um
do good deeds.
yeah, you do.
What were you
Um
expecting like when you went
oh
before you
good
started
yeah.
watching the first episode? Like what were you actually expecting it to be like versus what it
I thought
actually
it would
was?
gosh, good question. I I thought it was just like about pop music and like the record industry or something like that. I guess.
Mhm.
I think the part that I didn't really get was like how I think the superhero coding was like sort of like
Yeah.
the fact that Synergy is this like incredibly advanced AI thing. Um so I definitely wasn't expecting that. I may just not have thought that much about it. I thought it was just like a girl show about a band. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it was um I did have it on good authority that Jem was truly outrageous, but I think that was it really. Did not know there were bad guys. I was saying that to my wife last night. I was just like, I didn't know there were like villains on this show. And she's like, really? And I was
Oh
like, yeah,
yeah.
I did not know there were villains on this show. Um, because I had really only ever seen the opening title sequence. Like that was kind of all I'd ever seen.
Yeah, and they're
But
really
not
the worst of villains too. Like that's the wild part. Like they're not like just,
they're not
kind of
yeah, they're
piddly
not just
surface
mean
level villains.
girls.
Like they're
Yeah.
doing some really, like I said,
Yeah.
assault, arson, like so many crimes are committed in each episode and they just put like I don't know, probably thousands of people's lives in danger over the course of 3
Yeah.
seasons. It's fantastic.
That at the end of the Gem Jam two-parter where the Misfits come in on a hovering disc and then it crashes,
Yes, into
like
a
they literally
tree.
put so many people in danger. And like when they crash, everybody just kind of goes, haha, serves you right, Misfits. It's like they could have
Right.
died
They
also.
could have died because they were hanging on to, like, the disc by a thread. It's, like, got
Yeah.
strobe lights everywhere, so people are, like, getting hit in the face with laser lights, they're running, it's like an outdoor concert, and they're
Yeah.
floating above a crowd full of innocent people. Somebody destroys, like, the little, like, handheld device that's controlling it, and then it goes out of control, and they're, like, hanging on, and everyone like you said, they're like, "Ah, that's what you get for being evil and dumb," and they crash really high into, like, a really high up tree and fall down where they probably should have all broken their necks or injured their backs, terribly or something, and then they just get up and they're like, "Ah, we failed again. Until next time."
Yeah,
Hilarious.
they're very Team Rocket as well. Like they're just sort of like Team Rocket's blasting off again every single time. I was just like, okay. I thought that was going to get old because the stuff, my brother watched the Pokemon cartoon, and I was around and watched it, and I just would get so annoyed. It's like, God dang it, how are they the bad guys in every single episode? Whereas this did not bother me because it felt like, I don't know, more realistic, I guess, even though it's completely unrealistic. But yeah, what a show, Jim. Uh, and the Misfits songs are not better. I do have to say that.
They are not better. Sorry to
No,
the Misfits. Don't come
sorry to
and
the
blow
Misfits.
my house up or anything like that if you hear this possessed.
Yeah, so angry. But yeah, so that was our episode about Gem and the Holograms. Again, you can watch this. We're not sponsored by them at all, but just like if you want to watch this, it's on Tubi and it's also on YouTube. Tubi or YouTube.
Tubi.
Those are the two places you can watch it. I think there's also a DVD, though I think it might be out of print from a few years ago. But anyway, Tai, thank you so much again for watching. Thank you for watching. Tai, thank you so much for being on the show, as always. And how can people find you and your work on the internet?
Well, thank you for having me. I was delighted to talk about Jim today. So you can find me on Instagram. I am at writer Tai Gooden. I am also writer Tai Gooden on Blue Sky.
Very good. And you can follow me on Letterboxd, Kyle_Anderson. I just saw Close Encounters of the Third Kind in 70 millimeter at the Egyptian. And guess what? That
Ooh.
movie is loud. And that's all I really have to say about it. And Roy Neri is a bad dad. He's a bad guy who just happened to go up in a spaceship. There,
Great
I've said it.
punctuation to the
Yeah.
episode. Fantastic.
Yeah, this man is bad. He abandons his child and
It's
his
like Eric
wife.
Raymond.
Yeah, what a bad guy.
Bad guy.
Yeah. Thank you all for listening. Go watch Gem, I guess. Do whatever you want. It's your life. I don't, whatever you want to do. Until next time, I've been Kyle Anderson. Join us again next time on Laser Focus when my guest will be a different person. Bye-bye. Laser Focus is a production of Nerdist Industries and Legendary Digital Networks. It was produced, edited, and hosted by me, Kyle Anderson. For more, visit Nerdist.com.